So now I have two 16-bit JRPGs running at once with the start of Phantasy Star 2. If anyone remembers, the original Phantasy Star I played for the first time for the show as part of my first 2 episodes, so I thought now was a good time to try the sequel. This is played on the Sega Mega Drive Classics on PS4, which isn't relevant this episode, but will be later. This will take less episodes to cover than Final Fantasy IV though. I have no rare drops to farm or bestiary to complete, just collecting every treasure and level all permanent party members up to their highest levels. If we leave the title screen hanging, we get a bit of backstory. This game is set 1,000 years after the first Phantasy Star. We can tell things have changed right away when we see the former desert planet Motavia is now covered in green. All that quicksand with the antlion pits, gone. You'll also notice the shortening of names to 4 characters, Motavia to Mota and Algol to Algo. I believe this is for space reasons and not an actual change of name in the lore. After Alice and crew killed Lassic and defeated Dark Falz, things got peaceful. Then sometime later, a giant computer named Mother Brain was made to further the Algol system's development, explaining Motavia's terraforming. But in the centuries of peace, with Mother Brain running everything, the people of Algol have become soft, just in time for evil to threaten it again. On starting a new game, I have to name the main character. Thankfully, unlike the last Mega Drive RPG I covered, this guy has a name. It's Rolf. Every night, Rolf has nightmares of Alice's battle with Dark Falz from the end of the first game. As Alice fights, he wakes up. He's an agent working in Paseo, the capital of Motavia. He has no time to worry about dreams while the Mother Brain has control over the entire system. After waking himself up, Rolf automatically walks to the central tower in the middle of town. His boss, an aged Simmons from Yo Video Games, greets Rolf by telling him he's been working with them for 2 years now. He has the hardest job Rolf will ever have from him. As commander of the planet, he has to promote Mother Brain's plans. He thought Mother Brain was perfect at her job, but there's just so many monsters running around the planet that he's not sure. He wants Rolf to go behind the Mother Brain's back and investigate why the monsters are born and how to get their population under control. I have to go to the Biosystems lab and get the recorder so we can look through the data and find out why it's even pumping out monsters in the first place. Rolf returns home to pack for the trip and tells Ney he has to leave. Ney is a half-human, half-bio-monster who has been living with Rolf for the last 7 months. When they first met, she still resembled a child and he took on an older brother role to her. Thanks to her biomonster DNA, she ages much quicker and is now an adult, capable of taking care of herself while Rolf is gone. But Ney doesn't want to just wait at home and worry about Rolf, so she's going with him and he has no say in the matter. So yeah, Paseo. This was the first time we entered on Motavia in the first game, by flying from the Palmer spaceport. It's where the governor of the planet was under the influence of Dark Falz and where the final battle took place. This is the only returning Motavian town from the first game. The others are either long since gone or just not important enough to appear in game. We learn a couple things talking to NPCs. There's this guy Darum who has control of the North Bridge and robs people who pass by. One guy straight up lies to me and implies this game has weapon degradation. There's no such thing. Another explains how reviving dead party members works lore-wise. You have to pay to get their bodies cloned with all the memories of the original. I start with 200 Meseta and enter the weapon shop in the northeast corner of town. I spend 160 of it buying a pair of steel bars for Ney to equip on both hands. Giving her 2 steel bars is a 3 times increase over her normal attack start level 1. I leave town and it's time for a little grind. In the transition from first game to second, we can now have more than one enemy on screen, not to mention the party also being on screen. This means we can also have more than one enemy of different types in the same battle. In exchange, we lost unique backgrounds depending on where the fight takes place, instead they're all on this blue grid. It takes me a bit to realise what's going on with the battle system. Selecting fight has an auto battle that lasts a few turns where each party member uses a command set for them. This means I don't notice that Ney is set to defend at first and only Rolf is attacking. Nothing much to say about the enemies for now. Poisoner and Bee are very basic. Unlike the version of FF4 I'm playing, this game doesn't have a bestiary, so I don't have to track down one of every enemy. I really should have gone to the hospital to heal after just one fight, because my second fight against Fire Ant has me ambushed and Rolf reduced to 5 HP. I finally use the strategy option and find that Rolf starts with a technique, Foy. I still don't realise Ney isn't set to fight though. Foy costs 2 TP and does between 12 and 9 damage. Will very quickly become useless, but right now it kills these guys in one hit. Thanks to this, Rolf just barely survives the fight. Ney reaches level 2 from it. I guess due to her biomonster DNA, she requires about half the XP to level up than anyone else, so eventually she'll always be several levels ahead. I guess if that DNA makes her develop faster when it comes to aging, it would also make sense that it accelerates her development in other areas like combat skill too. I never thought about it that way until I stopped to write this script. This time I actually used that hospital. It doesn't cost much for a full heal right now, so I don't know why I was hesitant. Next new enemy is a mosquito. 4 XP from one fight is just painful. That's the downside with these fancy new animations that weren't in the original. It makes everything go slower. After a couple fights, Ney reaches level 3. Now I have over 100 Meseta, I can buy a knife for Rolf. This video, following 2 back-to-back Yu-Gi-Oh videos, throws me off when they abbreviate Meseta to MST. I read it as having 113 mystical space typhoons. That's not legal. It may look like I fucked up buying a knife when Rolf already has one equipped, but like Ney, he can hold 2. Rolf does have access to weapons that require both hands, but daggers and knives he can have one in each. The upside to holding 2 weapons is that character can attack twice in a turn. With bigger weapons or a shield, you're sacrificing a second attack for either a higher attack or defense stat. My first fight after going back outside gets Rolf to level 2. I just want to add, writing this I've learned I can't fucking spell Rolf. Rolled every time. During this time, I finally noticed Ney hasn't been attacking, and changed her default command to attack. A few fights later, Ney reaches level 4. The armour shop is in the southeast corner of town. 120 Mesetas gets me some headgear for Rolf. It's only 3 more defense, but I'll take whatever increase I can get. From the same fight, Rolf reaches level 3 and Ney reaches level 5. A few minutes later, Ney reaches level 6. A few more minutes later, Rolf reaches level 4 and Ney reaches level 7 in the same fight. At this level, Rolf learns Ryuka. This technique teleports you back to the last town you saved at. You save in the data memory buildings, the one with a floppy disk on the sign. The lore explanation for saving is that you're putting your memories into storage. My next purchase is a 300 Meseta fibre coat for Rolf. I'm now ready to get going, so I enter the tunnel to the north. There's nothing in here, just keep walking north and out the other end. Keep going north across a bridge and slightly west is another tunnel. This is the one blocked off by Darum. Rolf recognises him as a guy who tried to kill Ney 7 months earlier and decides not to go near him. I'd like to point out how cheery and upbeat the world map music is, not what we'd expect for a possible impending end of the world, but considering the Mother Brain has been making everyone soft over centuries by making life so easy, it's almost as if the happy, chill world map theme is part of that, giving you a false sense of security. Nothing's wrong, everything's great. From the tunnel, I go east and south around this forest, across another bridge and further south past another forest to reach a new town. This new town is Arima and is in pretty bad shape. It also seems the town was attacked by bandits, or scoundrels as the game keeps calling them, who caused huge damage with dynamite. One kid says that they're hiding out in a building in Shure. We also learn that Darum is from here and they took his daughter Team, which led to him becoming the way he is now. One old man says the bandits killed all the men and kidnapped all the women. Well, that's total bullshit because he's still alive telling me this and there are women walking all over town. So now that I've found a new town, know the cause behind Darum and know where these bandits are, I'm going home. With every new town you reach on Motavia, there'll be a new pie member waiting at Rolf's house to join the party. For the first one of these, we have Rudolf Steiner, a bio-monster hunter. Since this game only has space for 4 character names, he'll be going by the nickname Rudo. But apparently, Rolf has such great charisma that all new party members will let him give them a new name. Rudolf can equip guns and never learns any techniques. To make up for this, he excels in most other areas. He has very high defense, the highest HP stat in the game, and can equip some very good guns and heavy armor later on. He's going to be one of my most used pie members. Time to get walking back towards Arima. Since Rudolf starts at level 1, I'm hoping to gain some experience for him on the way. I also put him in front to lessen the damage of the other 2 behind him. After this episode I will forget completely that I can remove Rolf from the front. Not that it will ever matter. Once I reach Arima, I keep moving south and then east, then north across this bridge. I start walking back and forth here for fights, as stronger enemies will appear here. Eventually. At first it just keeps giving me the same 4 I've been fighting from the start. During this, Ney reaches level 8 and Rudolf reaches level 2. I backtrack south over the bridge and then get a fight with a new enemy, the Locust. They seem much tougher than all the previous enemies, but they only took 2 hits to kill each. Only 5 XP, but that is more than the previous enemies were giving, now I had 3 party members to share it all between. Eventually Rolf reaches level 5 and learns Gifoy. It's an updated version of Foy that deals between 33 and 46 damage to a single enemy. He also learns Su, which is slightly weaker. The very next fight has Rudolf reach level 3. Soon after, Ney reaches level 9. After what feels like an eternity, I finally get a new enemy, Froggy. Finally, some better XP I'm thinking. Nah, just 5. I know the grind is a common criticism of this game, but what really drove me up the wall more than anything at this point was the sound. Not the music, I like the music, but the sound effects in battle. Here's what a normal turn sounds like in battle. Now imagine that for hours. It's very obnoxious, loud and screechy, and for all my grinding sessions I had to mute the game and put something else on. And normally that's not something I like to do on a first playthrough of anything, I like to take everything in as it comes, so for me to need to tune out the sound so early on is rare. From my normal grinding spot I keep going north, east past more shit, south all the way, east again, and north. Here I get a mosquito pallet swap, Waspy. This is also my first fight to have more than 3 enemies. You can tell the game can be stingy with XP when I'm seeing 21 and thinking, whoa. That experience is enough to get Nate to level 10 and Rudolph to level 4. I decide to make this part my new grinding spot. Eventually I had the money to go to Arima's weapon shop and buy Rolf the 1200 Meseta sword. A single sword requires both hands, but it's still a massive upgrade over 2 knives. From the new grinding spot I push further north where I can see this building. Here I get a fire ant pallet swap, the armor ant. After returning to town realising I've got to heal, Rolf reaches level 6. Shortly after, Nate reaches level 11, then Rudolph hits level 5. My next purchase is the 640 Meseta sonic gun for Rudolph. About 10 minutes later, Nate reaches level 12. I build up the money to get Rudolph a second sonic gun, as he can hold 2 smaller guns at once. Like when Rolf had 2 knives, Rudolph can now attack twice in a turn. At this point I realise I haven't saved in an hour and 40 minutes. Not since before I first left the Paseo area. For some reason Arima doesn't have a data memory building, so I have to go back to Paseo to save. I also stop by the item shop to buy some healing items. I buy some Dimates, a second level of healing item, skipping over Monomates. Nearly 10 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 6. 7 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 7. He learns Zan, which deals small damage to a group of enemies. He also learns Hinas, which teleports you out of dungeons. This spell was the final aim of this grinding session. I was also aiming for the new weapons I bought, but they were secondary to learning Hinas. And now, 3 hours after starting the game, I'm ready to enter the game's first dungeon. That building northeast of Arima is Shure, the hideout of the scoundrels. So, last episode in my Final Fantasy IV video, I showed my route through the dungeons, 1 floor at a time, by drawing my route on a map and pointing out the chests I obtained. Then I would recite those treasures along with pointing out level ups and new enemies on the way. Once I reached the next floor, I would repeat the process. Thing is, dungeons in Phantasy Star 2 are much more complex and much more confusing. These are large mazes with a lot of floors, lots of teleporting and many dead ends. So what I'll be doing with this game is showing my route throughout the entire dungeon at once, as I believe that splitting it up might be too difficult to keep track of. Shure is one of the less complex dungeons in the game. On the first floor I go from the entrance and follow the outside of the room all the way around west, north and east, then south a little and west of the opening towards a teleporter in the middle, grabbing a chest on the way. On the second floor I go south and west, then through the door in the southwest corner to find my second chest. I then take the teleporter next to it. On the third floor I go east and north through 2 openings to my third chest. I then backtrack through the teleporter I just used. Back on the second floor I leave that corner and go around the outside to the northeast corner and the teleporter going back up to the third floor. From this one I go southeast a little to reach this big pit. I go south some more to my 4th chest, then back to the middle of the pit to cross a bridge taking me north. Then I follow the path east and south all the way down to a teleporter to the 4th floor. From the teleporter I go slightly north and west to my 5th chest. I then return to the teleporter and go west along the south wall, then north and west some more. Then it's south down this stupid long winding path to reach a room with a body I can inspect for 2 items. Just because it's items, I'll count the corpse as a chest. And I leave the way I came. I didn't draw that part on because it would look awful, but seriously look how much dead space is on the east half of this room that only exists to screw over those without a map. I'll skip a map of the 3rd floor, I just come back the way I came again. At this point all that's left are the 4 chests walled away in rooms on the 1st floor. So on the 2nd, I have to take each downward teleporter in all 4 corners of the 2nd floor to get the 7th through 10th chests. As for what happened on that route, on the 1st floor, Nate reached level 13. The first chest contained 40 Meseta. It took me a while to realise how someone who wasn't using maps and a guide like I was would figure out which teleporters would take them up or down. Ones going up have these flashing arrows pointing outward, while the ones going down are pointing inward. I imagine on an old 1990 TV it might be harder to make them out. All the shit overlaid on the front of the screen probably wouldn't help either. On the 2nd floor is a new enemy, the Spinner. I don't know if it's supposed to be a ghost or a giant amoeba or what. I would also like to add that the miss rate in this game can be insane. Sometimes I feel like it's Xenoblade and I'm taking on the monster 30 levels higher than me with all this missing I'm doing, except these are the weakest enemies in the game. Another new enemy is the Carrier. I think these are supposed to resemble crabs, but I'm not sure. My second chest has a Dimate, which replaces one I had to use earlier thanks to all that missing I was complaining about. On my first quick visit to floor 3 for that one chest, I face an actual amoeba, so one of my guesses as to what the spinners are is shot down. Also, they ambush me. I said ambushes were a pain in Final Fantasy IV, but at least you also could have preemptive strikes to ensure you go first too. In this game, enemies can ambush you, but you cannot ever ambush enemies. This is why all the grinding was so necessary. You could get completely fucked over from a single ambush otherwise. That third chest has headgear inside. My second run through the second floor was uneventful, I only got in a single fight during it. As for my proper walk through the third floor, that pit isn't for show. You can walk into it and fall down to the second floor, so don't. You know how slow you walk in this game? It'd take forever to get back. The fourth chest I get here has 200 Meseta inside. At one point you can see me get confused by a dead end reached through other means, just thinking, who put this here? Why? At this point I had no idea what future dungeons would be like. So as I briefly mentioned earlier, the fourth floor has the bodies of the scoundrels, most likely killed by the sheer amount of biomonsters. I had to get lost a bit on this floor. I wasn't using maps yet, just a written guide. The guide said to go north a little and then west at the opening, but thanks to all those pipes in front of the screen, I missed that opening and spent a while faffing about on the empty northeast side of the floor. When I finally find that opening, I meet a pallet swap of the bee, the buzzer. At this point, no enemy is a huge threat to me yet. The fifth chest in that opening contains a silver ribbon. I give it to Nate to equip. Since this game has no shared inventory, each character has 16 item slots each. Any item you pick up automatically goes to the first party member in line with free space. So when I find equipment out in the wild, I'm always messing about with menus to make one character give the item to another and then into a different menu to equip the item. As for the long journey towards the body with items, I meet a pulsar. Okay, what are these? Are they supposed to be some kind of cloud? Because all I see when I look at them is a very red, raw, possibly infected anus. From my next fight, Nate reaches level 14. Soon after, Rudolph reaches level 7. I reach the body in the southwest corner, which I loot for a small key and a letter. The letter is a ransom note for Daram. They have his daughter Team locked in Nido Tower and have given him a month to gather 50,000 Meseta for her return. It explains why Daram turned to mugging, but it's been at least 7 months now, unless his attack on Nate had nothing to do with the ransom and he was trying to kill her just because. With the small key I can now open the chests on the first floor. I could always walk to them before now, but it would be pointless since they'd be locked. And I have to manually use the small key on all 4 of them to unlock them. My 7th chest in the northeast corner has 150 Meseta inside. My 8th chest in the northwest corner has a monomate. The 9th chest in the southwest has some dynamite inside. Finally, the 10th chest has a second stick of dynamite. That's everything obtained in here, now I can leave. On the way back to Paseo to heal and save, Rolf reaches level 8 and learns Res. It's a basic healing spell, always healing 20 HP for free TP. Once I get back to town and use the hospital, I see I built up over 3 grand from that trip through Shure. A few fights after saving, Nate reaches level 15. I start moving south of Shure across another bridge. Going all the way south and then west leads to another building. I hang around outside and do some more grinding in hopes of stronger enemies with better rewards. Somehow I get Rolf killed fighting the same enemies, so I get to use the clone lab for the first time. The price of getting a dead character revived scales based on the character's level. I have the money now to buy Rolf a ceramic knife for 2800 Meseta. Just one of these is still weaker than a single sword, so I have to save for another. On the trek back to the new grinding spot, Rudolph reaches level 8. Soon after, Nate reaches level 16. At this level she learns Anti, which cures poison. I should also mention that she started the game knowing Res, but at this point I haven't even noticed. 20 minutes later, Nate reaches level 17. A couple of fights later, Rolf reaches level 9. Soon I had the money for a second ceramic knife. It might seem like an hour of grinding money for a 4-point increase in attack would be a waste, but remember, with 2 of these equipped, I'm attacking twice now, plus that slight increase in damage over the sword. Nearly 20 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 9. A few minutes after that, Nate reaches level 18. This is a bit OTT for grinding, but I'm also farming money to get Rudolph his own pair of ceramic knives. Although, since he's already dual wielding, I can equip the first of them alongside his remaining gun and get the benefits right away. Nearly 20 minutes after buying Rudolph a knife, Rolf reaches level 10. He learns Gra, which deals damage to all enemies. A little later, Nate reaches level 19. Another few minutes later, I have the money for Rudolph's second ceramic knife. After selling off some old equipment and stocking up on healing items, it's time for the next dungeon. The building southwest of Shure is the Tower of Nido. The first thing I have to do is use some dynamite to blow up this door. Now let's have a look at that map. You're having a laugh. Why is it such a mess? Why is there at least 7 dead ends? All 3 floors look exactly like this too. The 5 chests plus the end goal are nowhere near enough to justify all this. Know how much of this space is pointless? From the entrance I go north through the door I blew up, east to the wall, north some more, then west to a teleporter to the second floor. The majority of this room is dead space intended to waste time. On the second floor I go north for my first chest, then southeast to a teleporter up to the third floor. Here I go north and then west to my second chest, then backtrack all the way to the first floor. Back on the first floor I go west a little, then north to another teleporter going up. Back on floor 2 I go all the way south and then west a little to the third chest. Then backtrack most of the way north, then go west taking a quick detour south for the fourth chest. Then it's south, west and north to 2 teleporters. I take the right one going up to the third floor. Here I just go southeast a little to the 5th and final chest, then back the way I came. I then go through the left teleporter going down to the first floor. Here I go east and then south to another teleporter. On the second floor I go south and then west to one last teleporter to the third floor. Finally I go south, east and then north through an opening to my end goal. First run through the first floor is unremarkable. First visit to the second floor gives me the next level of B, the buzzer. The ceramic knives render them a non-issue. The first chest contains 100 Meseta. The second chest on my first visit to the third floor contains a Trimate, the third level of healing item and the best in the game. Nothing of note happens on my backtrack to the first floor or during my second run through it. On my second run through the second floor, the third chest has 20 Meseta. The fourth contains a Dimate. On my second visit to the third floor, the final chest has 60 Meseta. I've gotta say, so far the encounter rate for this place hasn't been unbearable at all. I'm surprised. Right after I get the next tier of spinner, the Vortex. Still nothing special. Then is the next level of Infected Anus, the Blaster. In the third run through the first floor, I get the next level of Froggy, the Toda. The third run through the second floor has nothing happen. On the third and final visit to the third floor, Rudolph reaches level 10. The end goal I mentioned before is a young girl. It's Team, Darum's daughter. We give her the letter and she's distraught to find that her dad has become a killer and says we have to take her to him. However, since many people hate Darum, his daughter would be an easy target, so the party put a veil over her to hide her identity. And I guess we just shove her into the inventory because she disappears. Oh well, I can teleport out now. Thanks to the guide I was using, this dungeon went by 3 times as fast as Shuri did, despite being much more complex. It helps that I didn't have to backtrack for any chests. We return to the tunnel where Darum is hanging out. Team runs out from the party towards Dad. Not recognising her because of the veil, he demands she hand over her money or die. Instead of trying to say who she is, she just argues back, so Darum kills her. Only after she's sliced across the chest and the veil is removed does she reveal who she is just before she dies. Darum says she won't die alone and he just fucking explodes. Rolf says that this is just one of many tragedies to happen with the world in its current state. This scene is fucking dumb and it fails completely at being sad in any way. So, Team doesn't think to ever take the veil off. I can at least forgive that if she's caught in the moment. But the girl who was first shaking at the mere thought of her dad becoming a bandit, when confronted with that sight for herself, decides not to say, "I'm your daughter," or even just the word dad. She isn't even stunned into silence, which would be more believable, as Darum could see her not reacting to his threat and then attack. Instead, she squares up to him like, "Yeah, fuck you, you're not getting my money, bring it bitch." No wonder she gets cut open. Then Darum just blowing up after 2 seconds of sadness. Was he always carrying a bomb on him just in case he needed to do that? Is this why Team got herself killed? Did terminal stupidity run in the family? This is supposed to be the scene that shows just how badly the world has gone to hell, but all it did was make me laugh. Anyway, after witnessing an entire family Darwin award themselves, I finally have access to the western side of Motavia. I start by going west across a bridge. I head south along the shore and east across a bridge into the first new town in hours, Opta. The first guy I talk to says that the Biosystems lab is south of town. One person says there is a piano teacher in town. People here also fully trust the judgment of the Mother Brain. It seems only people in Paseo are working the truth out. This town has the first data memory building since Paseo, and the first native Motavian we see in the game. There's one guy in the north who thinks I'm lying when I say that the Biosystems lab is creating the monsters. Since I had the money, I buy Nate a pair of ceramic bars. It's the first weapon upgrade since her original weapons I bought in Paseo. It almost doubles her attack stat. From the armor shop, I buy fiber gear for Rolf and a fiber vest for Nate. They're slight increases in defense. Know what's dumb? Every town has a building that teleports you between towns, and I keep walking all the way back to Paseo. Since I've reached a new town, I need to go back to meet my new party member. This time waiting for us in Rolf's house is Amy Sage. She's heard of our quest and wants to help out. She's a doctor, so she'll be our main healer. Like everyone else, she starts at level 1. Right away she already knows Res. Of course she isn't much of a fighter with a very small selection of weak weapons, so I'll be keeping her in the back. She has possibly the lowest HP in the game, starting with just 10, but will end up with the highest TP. So before I get going, I need to gain her some levels so she isn't just dropped by every enemy. Back in Opta, I get her some equipment, some fiber gear and a fiber cape. That weak scalpel is the best weapon I can give her right now. Back outside town, my first fight gets Amy to level 2 and teaches her Shoe, a spell that increases a single party member's defense in battle. Even outside the third town after going through 2 dungeons, I'm still having encounters that give just 4 XP. A few minutes later, Amy reaches level 3. The next fight sees Nea reach level 20 and learn Sack. This technique has a party member kill themselves to fully heal another party member. After getting a bit more money, I buy Rudolph his own fiber gear. A few more minutes and Amy reaches level 4 and learns Deban, a technique that temporarily decreases damage from enemies. 7 more minutes later and Amy reaches level 5, learning Foy and Anti. Going west from the armor shop in town, I can reach a hidden house. Inside is the musician Usthestia. I can have him play any song in the game, like a sound test. I can also have him teach a character how to play piano. I have him teach Rolf since he will always be in the party. No point teaching it to anyone else. For 2000 Meseta, he teaches Rolf the music technique. I'll be needing it later. For some fucked reason, he charges 5000 Meseta if I want him to teach it to women. 10 minutes later, Amy reaches level 6 and learns Girez. For 7 TP, it will heal 60 HP. This technique is always useful. 15 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 11. He learns Gifu, which costs 13 TP and deals between 67 and 92 damage to one enemy. 6 minutes later, Nea reaches level 21. 4 minutes after that, Amy reaches level 7. I think she should be a high enough level to survive the next dungeon. From Opta, I head southwest, crossing a bridge. While continuing west, I get my first new enemy in over an hour, next level up from Locust, the Locusta. Thanks to my levels and equipment, these take 2 hits to kill, and since everyone but Amy can attack twice a turn, I keep going west and south across this bridge by the shore, then it's east across another bridge leading to the Biosystems lab. Like the Tower of Nido, I have to blow up the door using the other stick of dynamite from Shure. Each floor of this dungeon is massive. I go north into this big room and take the west exit. I follow the path all the way west and then all the way north. At the end of that room, I go east, then north to a teleporter to the second floor. For the second floor, I go south, getting my first chest on the way, then west into another room. First I head south for the second chest, then back north and around the western edge of the room. I take it all the way south and then east into the southern room, continue east around the southern edge into the east room. I go up the far east edge, grabbing the third chest on the way. At the north edge, I go west back into the north room and take another teleporter back down to the first floor. From here, I go back into the eastern room and follow the eastern edge south and then west to a teleporter back to the second floor. Then it's northeast to a teleporter to the third floor. From here, I take a long winding path down to the southern room to grab the fourth chest. I go back to the teleporter and head west from it into the northern room, then west around the northern edge into the western room, then taking that specific path through the room to avoid all the walls. At the southern edge, I go west and north through a door to drop down the pit in the middle. In the basement, I navigate the walls to go to the southeast corner for my 5th chest and then the southwest corner for the 6th chest. I backtrack to where I dropped in and take the northwest path to the 7th chest. From there I take the long path east and around to my end goal for this place. On the first floor I get 2 new enemies, the next level Mosquito, the Stinger. Then there's a new enemy type, the Leecher, which is constantly flashing its inappropriate opening at me. The upside to being an absolute nothing channel that struggles for even 10 views per video is that I can't be demonetized. Getting 51 experience after an hour of half my encounters giving single digits felt very nice. We also get the next level of Poisoner, the Spit Kill. The first chest on the second floor has an antidote, the second chest has a Star Mist. This is a rare item that fully heals the entire party, so it's wasted being used this early in the game. Another completely new enemy type, the Hit-Tail. One thing I quite like in this game is the diverse monster design, especially with their animations. Some later ones are quite gross and they pull it off well. The third chest just has a scalpel in it. My second visits to the first and second floors are completely without incident. On the third floor, Rudolph reaches level 11 after what felt like an eternity. Shortly after is the next level of Amoeba, the Jelly. The fourth chest contains another stick of dynamite. In the long trek around this floor, Amy reaches level 8. Before I can reach the pit to the basement, there's a door in the way. I have to use that new dynamite I just got to blow it open. There's all these glowing red spots on the basement floor. These are damage tiles and unfortunately some of them you have no choice but to walk over. Better hope you have a lot of TP and healing items. Another new enemy type, the Mushroom. This dungeon may have introduced the most new types so far. They're the first enemies in a while that don't just get wiped out first turn. Second turn does them in instead. The 5th chest contains a poison shot that I equip to Amy's free hand. The 6th chest contains an antidote. Next level of B, the Insector. Nea reaches level 22. The 7th chest here contains a Trimate. My end goal was to reach this computer. Inspecting it allows me to take the data recorder. This was the original goal Commander Simmons sent me out to collect at the beginning of the game. No way to leave the basement without teleporting. Hope you have some leftover TP or escape pipes. After returning to Opta to heal, I finally use the teleport station to walk back to Paseo to hand over the recorder. I enter the central tower. The commander tells me he'll compare the recorded data with their own library data. He admits he was another with unflinching faith in the mother brain, but came to realise how it was weakening them over time. The woman running the library says that what caused the accident at the Biosystems lab was an overload of energy that made the animals it was creating rapidly evolve into vicious monsters. That's not all. The energy the Biosystems lab has been using was meant to go to Climatrol, which controls the planet's climate, reducing the amount of rainfall and increasing the planet's temperature. There was one NPC I spoke to back at the start of the game who mentioned Paseo having a lake that dried up. My next objective is to investigate why energy even started being diverted to the Biosystems lab in the first place. She also gives me a key tube, which allows me to enter a tunnel near the lab. But first I go back home to meet my 5th party member, Hugh Thompson. He's a biologist who values all life, including biomonsters, but he will kill them to defend weaker lives that can't defend themselves. However, the party limit is 4 and I'm happy with how it looks right now. I'll put him to use later. Being a biologist, Hugh's gimmick is that he learns many techniques that are especially effective on biomonsters. That doesn't sound like much right now, since every single enemy I've fought so far is a biomonster, but eventually that distinction will matter. Warping back to Opta and setting off towards the Biosystems lab again. To the south is the tunnel I can now pass through. I have to use the key tube to open the door inside. The only way to move here is southeast. This takes me to another tunnel leading to a walled off town like Paseo. This town is Zema. Majority of the people here are old and confused at the mere sight of me. The only actual bit of information I got is that native Motavians love hanging out at the dump at Roron. In the weapon shop, I buy Rolf a very expensive 4400 Meseta laser knife, then a second one has me having spent 90% of my money. It's 16 extra attack though, and I can still attack twice a turn. Since this is a new town, I walk to Paseo and check Rolf's house for a new party member. This time it's Anna Zersky. She's a guardian, someone who tracks down corrupt hunters. Hunters like Rudolph are supposed to kill biomonsters to keep people safe, but some abuse that power to cause harm to the people they're supposed to be protecting, which is where the Guardians come in. She can equip bladed weapons, including some that even Rolf can't. She also has a very small pool of techniques she can learn from leveling. At this point I swap Amy and Rudolph for Hugh and Anna to level them both at once. It's quicker than doing one at a time, and I can't remove Rolf and Nay, so I can only focus on 2 newcomers at once. Hugh starts with no techniques while Anna starts with Foy. I give each of them one of Rolf's old ceramic knives to hold them over until I get something better. I teleport back to Zema and get to grinding outside town. The first fight goes badly as the 2 people I actually want to level up get killed. Maybe it was cocky of me to throw them into fights with current enemies at level 1, but listen, I can't go back to single digit XP from every fight, I just can't. I tried to make one of them a little more durable and spend my remaining money on some Titana gear for Hugh. After 2 fights, both of them reach level 2, with Hugh learning Rimit, which paralyses a single biomonster. I get a 3rd ant enemy, the Pinch Ant, around here. Killing these gets both Hugh and Anna to level 3. Hugh learns Doran, which halves a biomonster's accuracy, and Gen, which is like Foy, but only affects biomonsters, with the upside of it only costing 1 TP. Soon after, both of them reach level 4. I buy Hugh some boots to replace his weaker shoes. Next new enemy here is the Fang, the next level up from the Leecher. Soon after, the 2 reach level 5 together. Hugh learns Sagen, a version of Gen that targets all enemies, and Shinb, which is bugged and does nothing. In one fight, everyone levels at once. Rolf reaches level 12, Nay reaches level 23, and Hugh and Anna reach level 6. Hugh learns Shiza, which halves a biomonster special accuracy, so for techniques. Anna learns Ner, which increases another party member's agility. 6 minutes later, the newcomers stop leveling together when Anna reaches level 7 first. It takes 2 more fights before Hugh also reaches level 7. I buy a Titana gear for Anna, but accidentally buy Hugh a second one. I give Hugh's second one to Rolf since it's an upgrade over his fiber gear. 10 minutes after my previous level up, Anna reaches level 8 and learns Shift, which boosts her own attack stat. 4 minutes later, Hugh also reaches level 8 and learns Res. A minute later I get my closest call yet as I get ambushed and all but Hugh end up killed before I can act. Then the run command refuses to work until Hugh is nearly dead. Eventually I've built up the money to give Anna a laser knife of her own. A few minutes back into grinding gets Nay to level 24. She learns her final technique, Nasak. This one kills the user to fully heal the entire party. 2 minutes later, Anna reaches level 9. 3 minutes after that, Hugh reaches level 9 and learns Foy. 7 minutes later, I have the money to buy Hugh a laser knife to replace the crappy scalpel he joined holding. 10 minutes after buying it, Anna reaches level 10. 6 minutes later, Hugh also reaches level 10. Soon after, I'm buying Anna a second laser knife. A couple minutes after that, Nay reaches level 25. That's halfway to the level cap already. 3 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 13. Next thing to happen is 14 minutes later, when Hugh gets his second laser knife. A few more minutes later I have built up the money to get Rolf a Titanomate. I'm not sure 3700 Meseta for 2 more defense was worth it, but that's that grinding session done, so it's time to move on. I leave Zema and go back through the tunnel. I start by heading east, then south once I reach the wall. I cross a bridge and find a new enemy type, the Fire Eye. These can attack the entire party with one move, but because I'm so powered up, they're not a threat, and I reaches level 11 from this fight. I move south along the shore, following it east. On the way is a Hittail variant, the Centre. This leads to Roron, the dump mentioned earlier. There's 2 rooms on the first floor and I start on the north one. All I can do is take the teleport to the basement. On that floor I go north to my first chest, then east, south and east some more to a teleporter to the second basement. All I can do here is go east to my second chest and I hit a dead end. I go back to the basement and to the left is a second teleporter back to the second basement. Here I go northeast to a teleporter to the third basement. Down here I go south for the third chest and I hit another dead end and have to return to the first floor. Back here I can walk through the door and walk along the outside on the black void to the southern room and take another teleporter to a different part of the basement. From where I start I go east and then south, west and north. I go west again and take the second north path to my fourth chest and then a teleporter to an alternate second basement. Here I go south, getting my fifth chest on the way, and then go west to a teleporter to an alternate third basement. I then go all the way to the south end of this floor to get the sixth chest and talk to the native Mortavians down here. The first chest in the basement is just full of garbage. This is a dump after all. Soon after I get the next tier of spinner enemy, the Whirly. At this point a lone enemy is never going to survive a single turn with 4 party members at level 10 over attacking twice a turn. Even just 3 does the job since I keep forgetting to tell Hugh to stop defending. The second chest on my first visit to the second basement contains a ceramic bar. The second visit to the same basement has a native Mortavian to talk to. Hugh also reaches level 11 on this floor. On the third basement my third chest is more garbage. A Mortavian offers the party cake. If you like the self-preservation that would normally keep you from eating cake from a dump, the entire party loses 10 HP each. Normally I'd backtrack for the XP, but this time I just cast Hinas to leave. Nothing happens on my second trip through the first floor. On my second trip through the basement we get the third version of Froggy, the Squat. In the fight with them, Nea reaches level 26. The fourth chest on this floor contains a cannon. On the alternative second basement, the fifth chest is just more garbage. On the alternative third basement, another new enemy type, the Rotwood. Normally I remember most of the enemy types I've seen playing this game, but this one I forgot completely. They look strong, but die as easily as the rest. My final chest on this dungeon is just more garbage. That's 2/3 of them. A Mortavian here brags about making a jet scooter out of garbage. Another says he's going to try riding it. That's all I need to do when I warp out. I approach the new jet scooter to find that the Mortavians have left a note saying they don't need it and the first person to find it can take it. This comes at a very good time, since I've exhausted almost all the land available on foot from Paseo. Here's a full map of Mortavia, and here's all the locations I've visited marked. I still have 2 towns left to visit. There's the one southwest of Zemma that I could have walked to before, but chose not to. Then there's the one south of Arima that is impossible to reach without the jet scooter. And for some dumbass reason I didn't use a jet scooter to reach the former. I parked it between Zemma and Roron and walked it there. This town is Kueri. Everyone just talks about the ocean here. I walked back to Paseo to get my new party member from Rolf's house. The new guy is Josh Kane, and I have no idea what kind of accent they're trying to convey here. Kane's like you, except his specialty is fighting machines and not biomonsters, and since I haven't faced a single machine enemy yet, I'm leaving him in the house to languish. I wasn't expecting to be covering 2 16-bit RPGs with a party member named Kane at the same time. It is strange that Kane is the only character who goes by his surname. Makes sense, who the hell is still going around in the far future on a dying world with a name like fucking Josh? I walk back to Kueri and enter the house at the southern edge of town. The guy inside is trying to make a new kind of gum that allows one to breathe underwater. But he needs Marijuana leaves for it. The tree those leaves come from only grows on a mountain on a single island. We need this to continue, but that's for next episode. Outside town I get my first Wolfang enemy and kill it quickly. The jet scooter will follow you around the world and spawn as close to the last area you exit from as possible. You can still get random encounters on the jet scooter, as seen when this reptile attacks me. It's the first lone enemy in the wild to take more than a single turn to kill thanks to high defense. I go directly west and get off on the southeast side of the continent. Now I just have to keep moving northwest across a few bridges. On the way I meet Headrot, a carrier with a mushroom growing out of its head. These guys are an actual challenge, capable of dealing about 20 damage. They even kill Nea and Rolf before the battle is finished, and with Rolf gone, so is my only guy who can walk back to town. What I decide is to brute force my way to the final town, running from every fight. That strategy gets Anna killed too, but Hugh makes it to Piata, the last town to visit on Mortavia. What we learn is that although Palma and Desiree still exist, and Mortavia's population of Palman migrants has overtaken the native Mortavians, space travel has been banned and the spaceports on Mortavia have been removed. Most likely another Mother Brain influenced decision, cut off the 3 planets from each other to prevent help. Also, like how Mortavia has been shortened to Mota, Palma and Desiris have been shortened to the 4-character Palm and Dezo. Once everyone is cloned, I spend 6200 Meseta on 2 laser bars for Nea. They're a good upgrade. Another thing we learn is that 10 years ago, while space travel was still allowed, a flight from Palma to Motavia ended badly and many passengers were killed. And an old man says he recognises Rolf's name from that flight list, something to come back to in a later episode. Time to walk back to Paseo to meet my final party member. This time it's Cher Gold, a thief. She's only coming along because she's a thrill seeker and there may be some good shit to steal. Being a thief works differently in this game than you'd expect. You can't steal from enemies as there is no steal command, and Cher doesn't have a single technique to herself, it's all things other characters can learn. How her thievery works will be explained next episode. But for now, the rest of this video will cover my final hour of grinding. I do it outside of Piata since that's where the strongest enemies are right now. Head rots are still tough though. This particular fight gets Anna to level 12. Ao here is a Terrakite, a reptile variant. 2 minutes later, Hugh reaches level 12 and learns Gifoy. I walk to Kueri and buy Nate a 4200 Meseta pair of knife boots. Back outside Piata is the third version of Locust, the Fanbite. Nate reaches level 27 after another 10 minutes. 5 minutes after that, Rolf reaches level 14. He learns Nafoi, which deals between 109 and 149 damage but costs 14 DP. I walk back to Kueri and buy a 5400 titanium chest for Rolf, it gives him 13 more defense. 10 minutes after Rolf's level up, Anna reaches level 13. Back to Kueri to buy Hugh's titanium chest. 10 minutes after Anna's level up, Hugh also reaches level 13, and 6 minutes after that, Nate reaches level 28. Eventually I have the 6700 Meseta to walk to Kueri and buy Anna a laser slasher. Slashers can hit entire groups of enemies with one attack, and she can equip 2, so they're very useful. I then return to Paseo to swap Hugh out for Cher. I need her to reach level 10 for something, but that's for next episode as this is where I'm leaving it for now. While I am getting enjoyment from the game so far, I must admit it is a bit of a slog. Fights are very slow and dungeons are a chore even with a map and guide telling me where to go. Plus there's a lot of grinding required to buy basically anything new. It also doesn't help that the one moment of story there is, I found laughable. I must say that right now, I'm preferring the first game. But I'm still getting enjoyment and there's still 2 more episodes worth of this game to go, so we'll see how it goes.